I am so excited to award Broncar Lee. Our next person that we're going to be talking to today, our HipCat Society Marketing with Love Award for bold authenticity. Let me just tell you a little bit about this guy before he goes on, because we are all going to enjoy that. But Broncar is receiving the award for bold authenticity because we all know it takes courage to be truly ourselves and put ourselves out there. There's so many different ways each one of us can accomplish this, to beat our own drum, or to the beat of our own drum. We do this in our own courageous way. And there's a lot of different ways we can do that. Just like I did. I messed up and I kept rolling with it. That's just life. Broncar is so open about his life, his struggles, his wins, his love for mindset, consciousness, and most of all, his family. So becoming an inspirational speaker, a coach that has reached so many humans, so many hearts, we're so grateful for you, Broncar. And to just have him on our virtual stage today and breathe a little bit of this greatness into our society and community, we award you for your marketing with love and your bold authenticity. We're so excited. And now that you've had this amazing award that we'll be giving you, I want to just let our audience know who you are. You are an amazing keynote speaker for the past 20 years, but it's so different. It's done so differently. And a few of the audiences or stages that you've been on, TEDx, Google, Facebook, Disney, GoPro, go to his website and see the amazing companies that he has inspired and been a part of. And that has just really made him such a well-rounded person to reach our hearts and to reach the hearts of so many of his audiences. Broncar's unique background includes touring Europe as a ringmaster to a world-renowned circus, appearing in Jay Leno on the Tonight Show, starring in a Super Bowl commercial, and beatboxing with his son that became a viral video receiving 200 million views. There's probably more now. But everybody wants that. And it was just so authentic, right? Broncar also plays 42 instruments and counting. I'm sure he's messing with a few more, traveling internationally and grabbing some really cool instruments along the way. Broncar is a velocity coach and author of BAM, Bold Achievement Method. Yes, we all need some of that. And throughout these experiences and realizing his superpower, he married them together with education and entertainment. And I think that's just such a good lesson for all of us. Like, how do we look at what our genius is, our talents are, and instead of trying to be somebody else or doing something else, like really come to grips with how we can be absolutely amazing and serve our audiences, our people, especially now in the world that we're living in. So without further ado, Broncar, I am going to zip it and just ask a few questions and hear from the master.
Right on. That was a heck of an intro. Okay, I'll see if I can live up to the expectation that is now set by all the viewers.
Oh, you'll exceed it. Just look behind you. How fun are you? Look at all those instruments. Look at that perfect t-shirt you chose for us. On your website, because we talk about your connection with your family and stuff, I have a really super duper important question that needs some serious attention before we start playing here, Broncar. I need to know the story of that necklace that you are wearing on your website.
Oh man, that necklace, which actually just broke like 3 days ago, which I had on for a year and a half, which is by far the longest I've ever had a piece of jewelry on in my life, was made by my now 5-year-old son. He made it at a birthday party, and it was just a little string. And I don't know how it survived for a year and a half, but the reason it was so meaningful is I don't wear jewelry. I have no jewelry on. I don't personally, it just, to me, it gets in my way. So it has to be functional for me to wear. And like this shirt, it's obviously incredibly functional. It probably brought a smile to your face, or you just had a flashback and thought, I remember that skit, or whatever, you know what I mean? Or you went, meh. But everything has to have a functional purpose to it for me. And that necklace had my son's energy in it when he made it for me. And so I kept it on, and I got so many compliments on that necklace going through like TSA, security. And when I was doing, keynotes and things like that, I would always have my necklace out and showing. So I got a lot of compliments on that, but that's my son made that for me.
Isn't that funny what brings us energy like that? Like you said, it had his energy and his love in it, and that carried through with all of your accomplishments and like what you were doing. It just carried that. That's really cool because I think that's what we're all trying to harness is what gives us energy every day to do what we need to do to accomplish, our passion, our mission, everything else. So that's kind of a cute story. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so my next question is, when people are asking us, marketing with love, Shannon, what's that all about? Why marketing with love? It's just a little bit different, introducing that into business and being in marketing for 22 years, just kind of getting a lot of eyebrow raises and a lot of excitement altogether. Like, wow, that's so cool because there's an awakening to it. But we always came back to why is because we're all humans. We're all humans, man. Like, let's go back to that. And then when I saw your tagline, instrumental.humans, can you tell us a little bit about your tagline and what got you there?
Sure. Yeah. So Instrumental Humans is my business. I'm the founder and president of it. And Instrumental Humans is really all about looking at our bodies, our minds, and our energy as an instrument, and thinking about our internal instrument, our internal tuning, and what type of frequency are we vibrating at, right? Are we running really sharp? Are we running flat? If you think of let's say a guitar or a violin or a stringed instrument of your choice, you think of it as if it's too tight, then it's sharp, it's too tense, it's too stressed, it's too overwhelmed, it's too anxious, right? Which is the human experience, or too flat, where it's too loose, too low, too, under, low energy, low enthusiasm. But if it's just right, that Goldilocks effect, then it's in tune, it's vibrating at the right cycles per second. Then if we are in tune, then we're able to show up and play beautiful music with peers, coworkers, colleagues, family members, whoever we want to connect with in the world. So the core of Instrumental Humans is viewing our bodies, minds, and energy as an instrument. And so then asking ourselves, are we being instrumental humans in the world? And ultimately what that is about then, on a slightly deeper dive, is really managing our health, joy, and power. Our health, our mind, our body, and our energy, having that in tune, and then morphing into our joy, which is like a filtration system of, do we have our gratitude glasses on? Are we seeing the world through the lenses of optimism, which is going to then manifest more joy in our lives, no matter where we're at in the world? And then finally, our power, so health, joy, and power. And power is ultimately how we put our energetic signature on life. It's really how we show up and play that music with the rest of the world. But it starts with the self. As we know, many great philosophers have said this. It starts with that self, then it starts to radiate out. And then once we get to that place of being an instrument of influence or an instrumental human, then we're truly radiating positive chords, positive energy, things that are going to elevate humanity and make the world a better place.
Oh my gosh. I love that so much because it's like, and I think my next question kind of ties into that, but I think it's such a neat way of thinking, like, I'm just feeling a little out of tune, whether it's the stress or, the fear that's kind of in front of us a lot more. And, just like, how do I get myself in tune? Like, in what I think is encouraging, and even, looking at your website, your coaching, your philosophy, and who you're helping, is we need those coaches. We need those mentors, because a lot of times we don't know why we're out of tune or how to get ourselves back in tune to really resonate. And as entrepreneurs, as small business owners, we have to like check ourselves first, like you said. We have to take care of our family, then we have to take care of our team, then we have to take care of our clients. There's a lot on us to like really show up, right? And and I like leading to that speaker magazine that quotes you on the ultimate goal is to create connection. If we're off tune, then we're going to miss connections, or our connections are not going to be great. I mean, do you see that more? Like, I mean, tell me a little bit more about that and how that's playing in the people that you're helping right now.
Sure, sure. Great question. Great observation as well. So ultimately, the first part of that answer is if we're not in tune ourselves, then we're going to create the opposite of harmony, which is disharmony or discord. And so when the vibrations aren't syncing up and blending together, then they're fighting, right? They're lapping over. It's all math. It's math and science, and it's just like the vibrations aren't lining up, and so it creates cacophony or discord, which is what a lot of the world, for better or for worse, it's just operating in. Outside, it's very noisy, and there's a lot of different opinions, and it's very polarized, and there's so many things going on. It's just, I mean, we could talk about it for a 250-year interview here, but ultimately, when we're in tune, then we can radiate and broadcast the types of energies that we want to also attract to us. Which is why you and I are here having an interview, because of the people that we know that introduced us, that know the vibrations that we're hitting 440 cycles per second. That's our tuning, so we're in sync. So that's the first part of that, is the importance of that internal tuning, so that we can project that beautiful music and create harmony as opposed to disharmony. The second part is a deeper dive into in the speaker magazine. What they were quoting me on was the importance of utilizing different tools in order to build bridges of relatability with people, to build those connections. And that's what I use music as my metaphor. Music is my primary performance tool that I use. And if I'm playing saxophone or drums or bass or, guitar, whatever it is that I'm playing, I'm always using it, consciously using it as a tool to build a bridge of relatability with people, even down to this shirt. Right? The shirt says more cowbell, right? It doesn't say some abstract musical tuning quote that nobody gets. This is a simple shirt that is designed to create a smile on somebody's face, and so it's like everything if I'm ever playing an instrument, it's always to build a connection. I'm not wanting to play some holier than thou thing that people are going to want to worship me about. That's not what I'm about at all. It's like, I want to play something simple that everybody can latch onto, that everybody can sing along with. If I go, you say, don't worry. Be happy. Right. So you get that. That makes you on. If I go, Daddy Shark, you get it. If I go, happy birthday to you, you're going to sing along with it. It's like, but these are all like tools to bring people together, to unify humanity. And so when music is used, consciously engineered and consciously played with clear intentionality, then it can be a powerful tool that transcends all barriers and builds that bridge of relatability instantaneously.
Okay, so this is really big. This is huge what you just said. I'm like, I'm not playing. This is because what we're trying to tell them is you need to raise your vibration higher, like your energy. Like we have this scale of energy, low energy, high energy. And if you don't have that, then you're going to attract the same or lesser than, right? It's like you said, it's a science, it's numbers, it's, we're all vibration, we're all energy. So if you're coming at low and stressed out in fear, that's what you're going to get in your business and even as a human. So if you can come every day and figure out your brand intelligence and resonate that vibration, like we're trying to explain vibration and resonating with the right people, then you'll get the people that you love to do business with. And then your marketing is easy because you're yourself, you're being authentic, and then you're at this higher vibration. Every day is like, how can I get myself up? Like this morning, I'm like teaching my son regular morning miracles. 14 and a half, just like you would expect a 14 and a half year old. But we're sitting there and we're breathing and we're like, yeah, we're going to make it a great day. And he's like, Mom, you're so weird, you know, but it's like, literally every single human needs to do that every morning to check themselves. But it's science. I don't like when people say, well, it's not woo-woo, or it's a little bit woo-woo. It's humans. It's weird energy and vibrations. And this is just what you taught us.
Well, and I think I just want to parlay on that because that's beautiful. I love the fact that you do that with your 14-year-old, sorry, 14 and a half year old. It makes a difference. What parents, we always, you know, we want to be accurate here, you know, but really the vibration and the energy, it isn't weird. It's only weird. And the definition of weird is just kind of like, it's a Celtic word that goes back to like otherworldly or something kind of abstract or out of the norm. But the only reason why it's weird or taboo is because our society has made it that way. It actually isn't weird or taboo. And to bring it to the present moment, if I were to choose to do something totally inappropriate right now that is not on par for elevating the quality of life or picking humanity up or rising the tide so all people live, you would cut this interview off, right? Because it comes down to the moment right now. But I'm choosing to show up to radiate. You're choosing to show up and to radiate. And so we're radiating together and harmonizing, right? So 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, it equals 3 because there's you, there's me, and then there's the entity of the combination, right? That's the math and the science, that harmonic collaboration there that creates another voice, that unique chemistry, just like a pot of soup. You bring all those ingredients together and suddenly you have this delicious soup, you know, but it's the same thing with us and raising that vibration. And I will also say, just for a brief moment, in that, you know, to bring it a little more nuts and boltsy practical words, to take because I love to deconstruct the woo-woo and say, okay, this is the abstract, this is the woo, this is the far out, and now let's bring it into the nuts and bolts. What does this really mean? And these morning miracles, I believe you said, these morning routines or morning rituals, these things that we're doing in the mornings, they're important because what we're doing is we're essentially doing reflection and projection. We're time traveling. We're creating a moment where we're giving ourselves permission to pause, right? Where we pause the music, listen within, adjust the tempo, press play again, right? Permission to pause. So once we do that, then we're able to time travel. We can reflect on yesterday. We can reflect on the past. And then we can say, okay, I'm choosing to, I was really proud of that. I was really proud of that thing I did there. I'm going to choose to recreate that and do it again tomorrow as I project in the future. Or I'm reflecting and I'm saying, ooh, that was not cool. I could have done better. I could have, you know what? I'm going to improve there. I'm going to choose to recalibrate there. Right. And now I'm going to project that into the future of the recalibration process. So again, we're bringing it into the present moment where we pause the music, listen within, adjust the tempo, press play again. But we're giving ourselves permission to pause. We're reflecting on the past, either recreating or recalibrating and projecting that in the future. So it's simply checking out from the rest of the world to check in with the self so that we can retune and recalibrate our internal instruments first.
I love that. That just makes me feel so good. That just recalibrated me. Like, it just gave me chills. That was just so beautiful. Thank you. And we all need that, right? Our resilience. And I guess let's speak a little bit to you can say that all you want. I would love for you to tell a little bit of your story, like life happens in the detours, because you can here's this nice, handsome guy, and he has all these instruments, and he's so talented. You know, it must be easy for Bronkar, right? You know, he has this beautiful family, this cute kid, all this stuff, but everybody's not there, and everybody's on their different journeys. And so if you could speak to a little bit of detours and coming in, and how do you gain from wherever you are in your life and on your journey, personal, business, you know, where right now.
Yeah. Great. Great. And also real quick, before I say that, you said you got the chills. As I was speaking there, I call those truth bumps. And the reason they're truth bumps is because something that I'm saying is resonating within you. It's called sympathetic resonance. And it happens in music all the time. When one note is played and something else in the world is tuned to that note, then it starts to actually vibrate. And so I believe that that happens with human beings, maybe through a word that someone says or a phrase, through the English language of how the consonants and vowels are articulated, right? Or through a particular tone. It could be the music that I'm singing, the melody that I'm singing, or the phraseology that I'm using. But depending on my tempo, my timbre, and all of these elements, something that I was doing resonated with you and created that sympathetic resonance within you, which I call truth bumps. So I just wanted to hit that real quick. Yeah. And because I mean, truly we are all, and then I'm going to get to the life happens in the detours in just a moment. And yes, I do have ADHD, but it's okay. And life does happen in the detours, which this is a mini detour right here. We are, as human beings, we are musical beings. We're not all trained musicians, but we are all hardwired for music. We walk in rhythm, we talk in rhythm, we do business in rhythm, we text in rhythm, we email in rhythm, we keep time in rhythm, we do business in rhythm, motors operate in rhythm, refrigerators run in rhythm. As we start to tune into that, right? It isn't just an elite group of people that are trained musicians that are entitled to understanding music and being tapped into it. It is all human beings. We are all entitled to tap into our internal rhythm, our heartbeat, our breath. Everything that we do is rhythm and is music. Even as we speak, looking at our bodies again as a guitar, this is the sound hole. We generate these thoughts in our mind. We have this energy. We project it out. It comes out of consonants, vowels, organized in words that are in a language that we can comprehend. But at the core of it, it's really music. It's really tempo. It's really tempo. It's really tempo. It doesn't even matter what words I'm saying at some point, because it's the way that we're saying it. And we can use this awareness and this tool in business. Also, for any parents out there, oh my goodness, is parenting the super skill or what? There's no other skill that is anywhere near as complex as parenting, because it's always changing. So we're forced to improvise with the jazz of life as our tiny humans develop. So it's infinitely complicated with tons of sub skills inside of the super skill. But having that awareness of our internal tempo and what we're broadcasting as an instrument makes a huge difference. And really quick, to your note about life happens in the detours and talking about me and everything that I speak about, everything that I coach people about, everything that I keynote about, it is all stuff that either I have worked on, right, deliberately worked on, and overcome the adversities or the obstacles or broken through, whatever that is, or things that I'm still working on. So I am not some perfect human at all, because I have been down many detours in life. And it's the process of embracing those detours where we think we're going one way. Everybody here has experienced this. We're going there. We're going to that point. All right. But then, I mean, even just literally driving, we're going to the grocery store. And then all of a sudden you see that detour sign. You're like, what? No, they closed the 405. I don't believe it. We lived in LA for a while and they were always closing roads there. But and then you get rerouted. Right. And it's I don't think there's anybody on the planet that's like, yes, a detour. It's going to take me 10 more minutes to get there. I'm going to go on this shady back road. There's going to be lots of bumps. My car is going to get dirty. It's just going to be super frustrating. You're right. But if we can reframe that situation, use that as a metaphor, reframe that situation and say, you know what? I got an extra couple minutes to listen to this podcast. I'm going to make a phone call real quick on my Bluetooth device. Okay. So we can reframe that as an opportunity. We have 10 more minutes right now. We just got a little space carved there. But to use that metaphor in our lives and say, okay, my plan was to go there, but then all of a sudden this happened. And I have thousands of stories from people that I've coached and worked with, or myself, that these situations have happened. One I'll share just to put it into context a little bit, because we were talking about the, in the introduction there, you were talking about, some hype stuff here, about my journey. And years ago, it's been, when was this? 2008, I think. I went on America's Got Talent. And this was like a huge moment for me. I was so excited to be on the show. And then I was going to be famous and I was going to be this rock star performer. And then I got totally X'd off the show and I absolutely failed. And I failed at the thing that I was supposed to be good at, right? The job title that defined me as this performer. And I completely failed in front of not only celebrity judges, thousands of people in the room, millions of people in the world, but more importantly, my colleagues, my family, my peers, my mentors, my coaches, all of these people, I had failed in front of them at the thing that I was supposed to be good at. Now, my expectation for that show was very clear that I was going to win that show and then I was going to be famous and touring and making money and influencing people and all of this stuff. That didn't happen. So I went down this detour, and luckily I had an amazing coach, Brian Poyer, who changed my life. I still am in touch with him, and he's still my coach from a distance. But he told me, he said, look, little bro, life isn't a snapshot. Life isn't a still photo. That one experience that you had was one moment out of billions in your life. Now, that doesn't define you, but you have an opportunity here. You have an opportunity to reach, to stretch, to grow yourself based on this experience. What are you going to do with that information? What are you going to do with this opportunity? And quite simply, the choice that you make today is going to dictate the person you become tomorrow. And when he threw that at me, the choice I make today becomes I will become the person. The choice that I make today will turn me into the person tomorrow. It resonated in this deep way where it was like, wow, suddenly I have some power here. I have some control where I was feeling powerless because I had just lost to the authority figures. The judges had not validated me. Right. And this is that's a much deeper conversation of the danger of some of these types of systems. But I was not validated by the authority, by the judge, by the famous people. They said I wasn't good enough, and I gave them my power. But in that moment, it was time for me to take my power back, to then take that experience and to be catalyzed internally by that. And so I rose to the occasion of the challenge, and the same thing that I did on that show and completely failed with on America's Got Talent, I then went back in the studio, refined it, had deliberate practice, got my game up. That same piece took me to Madison Square Garden, Super Bowl commercials, GoPro commercials, Tonight Show. I mean, a long list. And I'm not saying that to brag about all the things that I've done. I'm saying that because of Brian, my coach, just simply instilling that one phrase in me and giving me that perspective suddenly showed me that there was a possibility of reframing the situation and embracing that detour, going down that detour, and then eventually getting to where I thought I was going to go with that show by having success, with this particular skill and craft, but it was just a little bit further down the road and I took a detour to get there.
And you know what? That it's now more than ever, and I know that you've been doing this for 20 years, but it's just, there's so many detours right now that I think that, I'm so appreciative to have you here and like grateful to be that inspiration, really, because we have entrepreneurs, we have people pivoting, rebranding, restarting, putting the gas on, and a lot of it's scary. I mean, it's like, but like you're saying, it's how you vision it. Like, that was your success route, right? Is those judges pushing the golden buzzer or whatever they wanted to do that day or whatever you were visualizing. But then reframing how your coach told you, you have helped so many more thousands and thousands and thousands of people on such a deeper level. You're probably like, I could have never even imagined myself there, but it was that mindset that you had to get yourself in and to have that coach. And I think that's just going to resonate so strongly with our audience. And that journey of, you also talk about saying yes, because right now people are afraid to say yes in a lot of different ways. But watching you say yes to these things, you see that it's like, open yourself up for, if you're in tune, what can come from that. And I would say that that's what really attracts me to your, you know, putting a plug in there for your coaching, but I'm being 100% authentic here. Truly, is I think anybody that like really resonates with this interview and needs that inspiration, and it has that vibe of wanting to get that vibration up and that consciousness in the way that you're saying, is just something that is just it's a huge, it's I don't know even know how to, it's just such a huge need right now in humanity. And that's even why we're launching, you know, HipCat from our 22-year-old niche marketing, is we're getting on the bike and we're doing some really brave things with my millennial children that are taking the lead and doing this in this global pandemic, because it's so needed. There's a lot of scary things and we're saying yes in partnership, but you've done the same thing. So I'm really hoping people, you know, and get to connect with you and reach out and learn so much more about you, Broncar.
Thank you. I do too. Well, you know, and it's really about taking all of this, you know, I use all of my experiences as stories, metaphors, examples. But then it's really about deconstructing these, you know, we all look at this macro transformation, you know, and this, you know, just referring back to this golden buzzer moment that you were saying, we see life as this macro transformation, but we forget that we can actually deconstruct it and unpack it and make it simple, achievable micro choices and moments that lead up to that macro transformation. And so often we overestimate what we can do in an hour, but we underestimate what we can do in a month or a year, right? If we just have that deliberate consistency, again, just like music, patterns, math, it's all about the consistency. It's all about having tight beats. If you got that tight beat and you're consistent every day, the transformation happens. You can look at it across the board in most skills that you cultivate: emotional intelligence, fixed skills, hard skills, technical skills, across the board. If you look at anybody that's you know, fit, I have a background in fitness as well. I was 100 pounds overweight when I was an older teenager. And then I lost all that weight and got, you know, really obsessive in the other way, and started bodybuilding and became a personal trainer and helped hundreds of people lose weight. But that was one of my, you know, skills that I bring into my coaching. But that is came from a series of choices that happened every single day. Anybody that is ultra fit or semi fit or not fit or completely out of shape, it's all coming from a series of choices. Primarily, there are a few genetic things in there, obviously, at play, but most of it, in my experience of working with thousands of people, it comes from the daily choices, the simple choices of when we make that list before we go to the grocery store, before we have the emotional impulse to eat the thing that isn't good for us, that's going to have a negative repercussion or a less preferred repercussion, or, you know, choosing that's our nutritional intake, but then our physical output comes from being deliberate and being consistent every day, even if it's 2 minutes a day, 7 minutes a day. I do this thing because as a dad, I have two young spirited boys. 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and one of them's a redhead, and he is the poster boy redhead. I call him my little red dragon. He's a fireball. But like, you know, in especially over the last couple of years here, with the boys being so demanding, I didn't have time, and I say that in the best way, demanding for love, for connection, for everything, right? But I didn't have time to go to the gym. Like, go into the gym for, like, what is that? How could I possibly have, look, if we have 16 waking hours in a day, that's approximately 1,000 minutes. If we have 1,000 minutes in a day, I can't dedicate 120 of those minutes to getting dressed and driving in the car and parking and going into the gym and dealing with all the narcissism at the gym and going through all that, and then coming back and driving home. I don't have that time. I've got 4 minutes. I've got 4 minutes right now. The boys aren't fighting. They're plugged into something. Nobody needs anything. They've eaten. They've got clean clothes. They're good, right? I've got 4 minutes. I'm going to do 20 push-ups, 40 sit-ups, and 30 squats, you know? So I've got yoga mats all around the house and dumbbells in obscure places. I always have to have something for them to plug into so that I can get my exercise in. But it's not about these huge chunks of time that oftentimes people are looking for to go, oh, I'm going to go to the gym for 8 hours and get fit. All right, you do that, and then you won't be able to walk for a week. But if you take those 8 hours and you deconstruct them and you break that down into 30 short sessions, suddenly you have that consistency every day. And then after a week, after a month, after 3 months, after 6 months, you see this transformation happen. And the macro transformation always comes from those micro choices that we're making on a consistent basis.
Yeah, that is so true. And I think we get overwhelmed and there's so much going on. But if we just are easy with ourselves and we get that, like, we made these few little steps today, whether it's our health, whether it's doing, you know, a little Zach Bush 4 minutes, some push-ups, whatever we can do, a couple squats, which, you know, I need to work on that. But I think even with business, because they get these big dreams and they get inspired, but then they have a bad day or something. But it's like, take 90 minutes and just do this, you know, take care of yourself and you know, put your sneakers out. And you, even if you don't use them, you still put your sneakers out. And then the next day you put your sneakers on. And then, or even within business, make 1 phone call, make 2 phone calls, that sort of thing. Like, little by little, it does add up. And I just really appreciate that, because I'm personally working on that every single day myself. I mean, I'm the same as you. It's like, being in marketing 22 years, you think, whoa, Shannon, you know, you look, you know, my company, it looks so cool. And we've done some amazing things, but it's just like, hey man, we put on our sweatpants 1 leg at a time, and we have our struggles and we have our good days and our bad days. And my daughter is 25 and she was born on 4th of July, and we call her our little firecracker because that girl is crazy. But now she's like our producer for all of our video, and just nutty and just perfect for it. We found her genius, right? Like, we want to find with all of us, all of the people that are listening, our children. That's really what we're hoping for, and that we can inspire people. And I really appreciate you inspiring us today, Bronkar.
Thank you so much. Absolutely.